Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. Okay. Translation. Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Braj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Yashoda, the delighter of the inhabitants of Vraja, and he wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. And here I want to offer obeisances and prayers to the teachers. Thank you very much. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I want to invite all the blessings of those gathered. And we're going to start. Okay. So we are reading from, let me actually tell you, Canto 10, chapter 52, verse 18 to 24. And I should start sharing screen. Okay. Shri Rajavachai Bhagavan Bhishmaka Sutam Rukminim Ruchirananam Rakshasena Vidhanena Upayama Iti Shrutam. Translation. King Parikshit said, the Supreme Lord married Rukmini, the beautiful-faced daughter of Bhishmaka, in the Rakshasa style, or so I have heard. This is the purport by exalted disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Sridhar Swami quotes the following Smriti statement: Rakshasa Yudha Haranat. A Rakshasa marriage takes place when the bride is stolen from one's rival suitors by force. Similarly, Shukadev Goswami himself has already said that Rajna Pramatya, Krishna had to beat down opposing kings to take Rukmini. Bhagavan Shrotum Ichami Krishna Syami Tatejasa Yachamagatva Shalvadin Jitva Kanyam Upaharat. My Lord, I wish to hear how the immeasurably powerful Lord Krishna took away his bride while defeating such kings as Magadha and Salva. We should not think that Sri Krishna was actually afraid of Jarasandha. In the very next chapter, we will find that Sri Krishna easily defeats Jarasandha and his soldiers. Thus, we should never doubt the supreme prowess of Lord Krishna. Raman Krishna Katha Punya Madhvir Loka Malapaha Konutripyeta Shrim Vana Shrutagnyo Nityanutanaha. What experienced listener, O Brahmana, could ever grow satiated while listening to the pious, charming, and ever-fresh topics of Lord Krishna, which cleanse away the world's contamination? Shri Badaraya Nirvacha Rajasid Bhishmako Nama Vidarbhadhi Patir Mahan Dasya Pancha Bhavan Putra Kanyaika Chavaranana. Sri Badarayani said there was a king named Bhishmaka, the powerful ruler of Vidarbha. He had 5 sons and 1 daughter of lovely countenance. Rukmyagrajo Rukmarato Rukmabahur Anantara Rukmakesha Rukmari Rukminyesha Svasasati. Rukmi was the firstborn son, followed by Rukmaratha, Rukmabhanu, Rukmakesha, and Rukmamari. Their sister was the exalted Rukmini. Sopashrutya mukundasya rupa virya gunashriyaha grihagater gimamanas tammanmene sadrisham patim. Hearing of the beauty, prowess, transcendental character, and opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, Rukmini decided that he would be the perfect husband for her. The word Sadrisham indicates that Rukmini and Sri Krishna had similar qualities and thus were naturally attracted to each other. King Bhishmaka was a pious man, and therefore many spiritually advanced persons must have visited his palace. Undoubtedly, these saintly persons preached openly about the glories of Sri Krishna. And the last verse, here we are going to go through the synonyms. Tambuti laksha no darya rupa shila gunashrayam krishnascha sadrishim paryam samudvojum manodadhe. Synonyms: tam, her; buddhi, of intelligence; lakshana, auspicious bodily markings; auradhya, magnanimity; rupa, beauty; shila, proper behavior; guna, and other qualities; ashrayam, repository; krishnaha, Lord Krishna; cha, and; sadrishim, suitable; haryam, wife; samudvotum, to marry; manaha, his mind; that he made up. Translation: Lord Krishna knew that Rukmini possessed intelligence, auspicious bodily markings, magnanimity, beauty, proper behavior, and all other good qualities. Concluding that she would be an ideal wife for him, he made up his mind to marry her. Purport: just as Lord Krishna was described as Sadrisham Patim, an ideal husband for Rukmini, being just like her, Rukmini is described as Sadrishim Paryam, an ideal wife for Sri Krishna, being just like him. This is natural, since Srimati Rukmini is Lord Krishna's internal potency. Jai. Thank you for sticking around for all those 7 amazing verses. Okay, so let's start. One of the things that came up is that, first of all, this chapter, I want to say it's called Rukmini's Message to Lord Krishna, which already reveals so much of her internal longings, inner conviction, and perfection as a personality. And it is a very heated circumstance of the marriage between Rukmini and the Supreme Lord Krishna. And there is a lot of emotion and desperation in the situation. Rukmini writes a letter to Krishna with full conviction that she either marries him or she will give up her body, also so that she can be closer to marrying him. And it's really not an exaggeration that she's going to do it. Like, this is really how much she knows her heart, and this is the only way that she sees actually out of her situation. And when I was discussing this verse yesterday, it's a point that came up, which is not from my own mind, but that's also what happens when Vaishnavas gather, was that in that situation, Rukmini was genuinely calling out to Krishna in a situation when she was in immense distress. and her marriage is already arranged to Shishupal through her elder brother. And she actually truly saw Krishna as her solution and the only one. Because again, it was either, my Lord, you're going to marry me, or please marry me, and I'm going to give up my body. There is pretty much no in between. And this is really a conviction of a devotee, that everything is in Krishna's hands. And if something doesn't come through him, it essentially will not come, because everything comes through Krishna and the divine couple. And it's also beautiful to see her strong desire to attain him as her husband and serve him is reciprocated in kind and with sweetness. And it is really that mentality, like, I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, or here as my partner, and it must be him. Like, it must be him that is my Lord, because if not, like, and if it's not now, then it has to be later. But it already happens, or it will happen, and that's a very beautiful and proper mentality to actually have. I mean, that's exactly the consciousness of a devotee of Krishna. And then later we actually, in verse 19, we go into the perfection of a listener. The new question is asked, and it's actually asked with an open heart and a lot of faith. There's even the words, of conviction, like, please tell me about the prowess and power of the Lord. And that further elicits glorification of the Lord. In our community, we have Adi Purusha Prabhu, who always says, how wonderful is Krishna. And actually, it's that way of also saying, like, how is this pastime exemplifying how wonderful is Krishna? And so in that way, there is this trust, like, my Lord is immeasurably powerful, and I want to hear how it's shown in his actions, which is why this question comes. And it's even that sense of loving request, like, please prove to me further this point that I already know, that I have conviction about, that my Lord is supremely powerful, and I just want to hear more. And so in this way, we can know Krishna and his character. When we study, or when we read the scripture, when we read the pastimes, we can essentially remember all his qualities and just ask, like, how is this proven in this point? I know the Lord is the friend to everybody. How is he showing his friendliness or his friendship in his dealings with others? In the verse 20, there is this very beautiful versing, which is that, let me actually go back to this verse so I really quote right. It says, what experienced listener or Brahmana could ever grow satiated while listening to the pious, charming, and ever fresh topics of Lord Krishna, which cleanse away the world's contamination? I find this to be a very powerful statement, that hearing about Krishna cleanses the world's contamination. And I heard it being described by Keshava Swami, Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami, how devotees act like agents of Vamanadev. That how just like him coming and asking for 3 steps, and then those steps take the entire world, or entire creation. Devotees come and they ask for only something small, but then it expands, because naturally the devotion also wants to expand. And so when we come with contact with agents of the Lord, it just changes our lives. And so here too, we are again given a lot of faith and conviction that hearing, which essentially starts the process of devotion, is going to expand and purify our hearts. And that again starts from the inside. It's from the inside out shift of the entire world. And it's not really an exaggeration, actually. We can see it all over. And even my spiritual master, Radhana Swami, often says that the pollution in the world actually stems from the pollution in the heart. And it really expands into how we deal with others, how we essentially into any relationship we are having. If there is a lack of an experience of sacredness that we are having, especially with Krishna, um, and the most important relationship with him, then essentially there is a lack of sacredness in any other relationship we are having, including a relationship with the environment or the relationship with um, our duties or our activities we are doing. And it also speaks about the perfection of the practice of hearing. Like even now, we are actually practicing hearing. I hope that some of you are hopefully bringing your mind back with wonders and all these things, but it is really a practice of dharana, focus. And there is a perfection to this practice. And in that perfection, it means that the listener is becoming more and more hungry to hear more about the Lord and to go deeper into the detail and to really invite all of these things into the heart. So that's really that's the aim, or that's the goal, hopefully. And in verse 21 and 22, there's we are given origins of Rukmini, and she has a family, and she's influenced by her siblings. And we actually have a chance to contextually know her. Contextually meaning, to actually see, even though she's an incredible personality, she still has her own relationships, and it's such an honor to know that, to know the Lord, to know the personalities related to Him, and to know the whole, essentially origin story to each one of those personalities. One thing that was a very almost stunning with beauty aspect of this verse, or the translation, was that she is described having lovely countenance. And I was thinking how incredible it is that sages speaking Bhagavatam are even with being so renounced, being mystics, being pure devotees of Krishna, they also can recognize the beauty and see the divinity in that beauty. And she is herself a divine personality. But we can also extend that into our daily lives, and see the origin of beauty instead of turning away from it, actually, or instead of turning away from beauty that we see, we can actually appreciate it and see it originating in Mother, Father, God, which is something to perhaps take up as a practice. And then she refers to Lord Krishna as Mukunda, the Supreme Person that liberates. And that was her meditation, because she longed to be set free by Krishna. And that is the reminder of the name. Krishna has so many wonderful qualities, and he has names that encapsulate those qualities. And so here she is calling upon him, but not only that, she's calling upon him in with a very specific name that exemplifies that quality of a person who is able to liberate her. And we can also do that, actually, and we have a chance to do that, to really meditate on the Lord and his multiple qualities through his multiple names. And that is again also our fortune. And here it's also speaking about the culture of spiritual persons, essentially, that she was exposed since a very young age to hear about the Lord from others. And in that way, we are also given that almost instruction that, first of all, one way of serving and really expressing love towards Krishna is to speak about him to others. Again, according to time, place, and circumstance. but it is really like that highest service, which is allowing somebody else to fall in with Krishna, just like Rukmini has, through hearing about him, through the sages that came through their house, or rather palace, um, over the years essentially, and spoke about the Lord to her. I want to read from a book by Bhakti Tirtha Swami. It's called Surrender, and this is about the advancement that it shows through compassion. And here it is, that link of love expresses itself in compassion and in tenderness, and that in turn is an indication of our advancement. So this is titled Depth of Compassion Indicates Advancement. Spiritual advancement is directly proportionate to the depth of our compassion and our ability to love. Highly empowered beings develop such intense desire to make a dramatic change in people's lives that the Lord empowers them, enabling them to achieve results far beyond their own capacities. Great prophets in many traditions exemplify this phenomenon. Some have been sent as ambassadors from higher abodes. They send out signals that will attract those who are ready to respond to the call for freedom. Other prophets come directly from the communities of this world, feeling the severe pain of the suffering multitudes. Their depth of compassion inspires the Lord to empower them as his agents. One of the greatest accomplishments for a person in this state of evolution is to make his consciousness and body available to the higher powers, despite the fact that he may still be conditioned. Surrendering one's free will to the Lord means that the eradication of not just our own karmic patterns, but also those of others. Lord Jesus Christ was one such compassionate being who absorbed the collective karma of millions. By literally dying for the sins of humankind, Lord Jesus gave others the valuable opportunity to understand higher truths, to open up doors for various agents of the Lord to make contact. And so that's a possibility we're having, to actually express love through compassion, and this is really powerful. Through even well conditioned, one can still become a vessel of Lord's service. And I was thinking how in our spiritual movement we see the same conviction that Rukmini has in our spiritual masters. How I'm thinking about my own spiritual master, but I'm sure it is especially for those who are so dedicated and so advanced in leading others as well towards the Lord, how they essentially had their own moment of surrendering and calling out to Krishna, and just like Rukmini just felt through hearing, like, this is a person I want to marry and there's nobody else and there's no other way. Our spiritual masters, our acharyas, each had that sense of calling and deciding within the heart, like, this is the path, this is my spiritual teacher, and I'm just going to surrender to them. And so it also expands in that sense of the pastimes we are reading expanding to our own surroundings and what we see around us as well. And in verse 24, I just found it incredibly beautiful that the Supreme Lord and Rukmini find themselves perfect for each other and long for one another. And this shows that sense of the perfect harmony and the balancing because of their reciprocation with each other. And in a way too, it shows how everything is related and originates to the spiritual and to the original. In a way that I've heard descriptions of bonds between two persons being so loving, or especially for devotees, being so loving that they feel like they're a part of each other as well. And here's directly said. We go back to the purport, the verse 24. Rukmini is described as an ideal wife for Sri Krishna, and Lord Krishna is described as an ideal husband for Rukmini. This is natural because since Srimati Rukmini is Lord Krishna's internal potency. And so we can see that common longing for love in our own lives. And essentially wherever we turn, there's always a calling for love. And that channeling, or we can channel that affection in service. And it is really, that highest communion, essentially, of service. Because it is expressed, it's essentially love called to action. And when it grows so much, it just has to be expressed. Because where else, like there's the only way for it to grow, or the only way for it to actually have its flow, is to just continually express it. And so here, ultimately, all relationships become centered and grow our love towards the divinity, towards the divine couple. Because again, that's a way of expressing in every single pocket of opportunity. There is a way of expressing the love that we are cultivating within the heart. And I want to close with something that I was actually intending to open with, but it feels, at least to me, as appropriate. Here it is. This is from the same book, Surrender. God's love, it's called, ambiguity is Maya. God's love is always available and accessible. It has been since time immemorial. Krishna's love has never changed and never will change, just as the process to attain that supreme love has stayed the same. Love brings love. Devotion brings more devotion, just as violence brings violence. Anger brings anger, and lust ignites, becomes infectious, and brings disaster. The material world is a complete attack on basic human existence, isn't it true? At this point in time, the instruments of communication appear to have reached new heights, but intelligibility is at a low. By intelligibility, I mean the real ability of people to communicate, to understand one another, and to perceive the goal of life, which is again Krishna's love. Therefore, there is a dire need to remove many unnecessary obstacles that cause us to miss connections with Krishna's love. Yes. I hope this was somewhat supportive for you, and I will conclude here and open for reflections, corrections, comments, questions, anything else that you would like to bring to the circle. Thank you for hearing me, and thank you for practicing hearing with me.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. Wonderful class. I was reflecting on how Krishna's mercy is always available at any given moment in time, space. You can always tap into it, no matter how low you think you fell, no matter how great you are. Step into the mercy. Don't miss out. Don't miss out. It's always there, wherever you are. Thank you so much for making that point, Ananda Manjari Didi. Mike is lovingly blowing cool air in the face of his friend. See, this is love.
Yes,
Okay, Damodar Priya has her hand up.
I would just add before, and just one moment, and I want to say that this was a really big shift in my life of experiencing everything around which is to fundamentally acknowledge that we do live in a friendly reality, even though we are constantly attacked. Like, even while my senses are continuously attacked, even if I'm in Los Angeles or in New York City, when I feel like everything of me is abused, when I'm just walking on a street, it's like still fundamentally we live in a friendly reality, that everything is arranged for us so we can come closer to Krishna and so that we can connect deeper with the heart as well. And so it is really a powerful practice to, even if calamities happen, to really ask, like, where is the kindness in here as well? With that, I want to hear Damodar Priya, my sister.
Hare Krishna, your sister. I actually wanted to touch upon what you said about how all relationships have the potential to grow our love for Krishna. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, just because I feel like sometimes it's easy to get that sense when you're having a loving relationship with someone, like people that you know or that you're friends with. But how can that be reflected when it's someone that perhaps there's some animosity or some misunderstanding or some conflict? Like, where can that sit in?
Thank you so much. What comes to me is that even in animosity, there is still a way in which we can approach it with an open heart. I'm sorry, Martin, you said that you barely can hear me. I'll try to speak a little louder. It is 4 a.m., so I'm trying not to wake up the rest of the house. But I hope it's a little better. So even in conflicts, there is a way of cultivating an open heart or stepping into like what I call an enemy image, which I also learned in like nonviolent communication. And so I find, which is also framed as compassion. And I find that even if there is a conflict, or if we are approached with a lot of intense or energy, or even, like negative intentions, is to even to fundamentally hold, for me at least, the notion that I know that there are many influences on this person. Like, I know that there are conditions just as I am, but perhaps their conditioning right now is thicker than my own, and I can still tap into my own consciousness, and they are not able to do that. And I essentially can even practice imagining like what can be going on that influences them so much, and also trust that ultimately, unless somebody is exemplifying the notions of being having the so-called demoniac, or there are like so demons that are here, but most of the time we are also not meeting them so much, of course. And so there is that sense of that fundamentally everybody actually has good intentions and tries to meet their own needs or their own longings, and at times those longings are so severe and intense that they just cut through relationships, and it's kind of like no matter what, like they have to attain that, or satisfy their desires, or essentially act upon their conditioning. And so I find that even in one way of accessing that love or practicing expressing that love is to see that people are just crusted with those conditionings, and to see, or to even tap into the practice of remembering that ultimately still there's Krishna in their heart, and that actually that Lord is even arranging, like he loves them so much that he's arranging an opportunity for them to even interact with a devotee. And and of course he arranges so many opportunities for advancement and connection with him at all times. And so yeah, I feel like the most important thing is to essentially keep the open heart, and to almost like not cross somebody over. I mean, how many times, like, there were situations even in like, I heard it from Keshava Swami, I cannot tell you the person, but I know that there is a person who is right now even like a sannyasi in a movement, who like joined the movement through cursing out devotees, but he would like go to Sankirtan and like curse out devotees and be like, and do it so religiously, like really criticize. But at some point his heart changed, and devotees were just essentially, it doesn't mean that we have to accept abuse, but we can also just take it with detachment and realize, like, like if somebody judges me but they don't know me, then it's like, well, it's not personal, because why would they, where would they even have the bias to judge? Like, it needs to be earned in that way. And so essentially it all becomes a reflection of somebody's perception. Did it help at all?
Yes, I love the idea of just keeping an open heart and remembering that Krishna's in their heart, and the idea of that they might have such conditioning that they're lashing out or reaching out in a way that seems like they're lashing out, but they're really honestly like reaching out for that love of Krishna in a very roundabout way. So just kind of remembering that. And I love your explanation about how Krishna is arranging for them to get association of a devotee, even if it's, in a, not in the most positive way. Kind of like how I love that. I've actually heard that story as well, of that there was a guy that used to come and like harass the devotees in Sankirtan, and he was like always there. And because of that, he got purified. And I actually heard a story yesterday of someone who used to come around to the devotees' homes in Latin America. There's a devotee, and he would always be asking for food. So they would give him prasadam, and he would say like Krishna's name and kind of like mocking them, like, oh, you little Krishna. And he was always saying Krishna's name in a very mocking tone. And eventually, though, they kept loving on him, kept giving him prasadam, that he got purified. And he asked them, he was like, I really love to draw. Can you give me something to draw? And then in them giving him something to draw, he ended up making like this huge poster of Radha and Krishna for them as like a loving reciprocation. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Somehow it reminds me of a story. I said it like maybe in one of the classes too. That was like last summer. I was at that time like freelancing as a artist assistant in like Brooklyn, which is actually right next to the temple. But there was a time when there was a person who was, I assume, unsheltered on the street, and he was actually screaming, and everybody was just like essentially crossing to the other side of the street, the other sidewalk, to continue their way forward. Just as New Yorkers really know how to do it, they just keep out of business, they have their own. But and I was like walking, and I'm like, oh no, like am I like really doing the same or not? And like something in my heart was like, no, you should like stay in on this side. And I was like, okay, like let me prepare internally for it. And so I'm like walking to this person, bracing myself, and he screams, but he screams and says, will you pray for me? And I just stopped, and I looked at him, and I said, yes, like yes, of course. And then like everything just melted down, and he was like, and it's like, wow, this was so intense but so beautiful. I hope you guys can bow to Krishna like that too.
Thank you, Manjari. Shri Shri Radha Muladhar ki jai. Shri Guru Chandra ki jai. Darshan time. Cameras on. Thank you so much, dear devotees. It's nice seeing you. Nice being seen by Krishna. Ananda Manjari, wonderful class. What a sacrifice at 4 a.m. You gave such a
time.
and you look fresh, like moonlight at 4 a.m. This is how it's done, dear devotees. Bhima Prabhu, maybe next life you'll look and sound like Ananda Manjari. Maybe if you try hard.
No, please don't come back. As much as you can, don't. Is there any more questions or comments? I want to say I just saw Karen, I think with a young companion there with some affection. And I just want to say thank you for being here, and it's so sweet to see you both. There you go.
Karen, what's your daughter's name?
This is Annabelle.
Annabelle. And
Yeah.
who's Annabelle? Is that your son?
This is Annabelle. Yeah, and this shy guy is Isaiah.
Isaiah. Annabelle.
He's hiding.
Annabelle, I have the same shirt. Very similar.
Right. What?
I have the same shirt. That's besides the point. Anyways, I was thinking in the early days when this movement, when Srila Prabhupada's movement was just getting started, the secret services, they would infiltrate the movement with their agents and informers. And those people ended up staying in the movement, becoming devotees. Jeff Reckler is one of them. Yeah. Sorry for blowing your cover, Jeffrey Prabhu. Okay, this is it. Don't mess with Krishna. If you want to lead material life, don't listen to the flute. Don't look at the deities. Don't listen to Ananda Manjari's classes. You'll never be the same for you. Okay, any final instructions, Ananda Manjari? Before you go back to sleep?
Please practice hearing and chanting. And you can actually, this is what I try to tell myself and remember, which is that we can channel everything to the holy name, and we can also, what we gather from the holy name as well, or what is offered to us, we can also offer to the world. And so, yeah, I just pray that today we can really remember the fact that Krishna is very kind, and he arranges so many lessons for us in every situation. And I also want to invite you and myself into really cultivating that sense of, if it's not through Krishna, it doesn't happen. Like, it's all from him, through him, and for him.
It's all from Krishna. Wonderful point. Even the bills, even unpleasant stuff, it's all from Krishna. Don't lose your temper. Remember, it's Krishna testing you.
Yes.
I'm preaching to myself. Ananda Manjari, wonderful class. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. It was nice seeing you. Tell your family you love them.
Yes.
Tell everybody about Krishna. and come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.